My dad asked me when I was in high school. He said, if you could play for anybody, who would you want to play for? Can you guess who I said? I said Israel Houghton. And so for that to happen is just, first of all, mind boggling for me, because there's not many musicians who literally say who their dream gig is and they actually get to experience it.
I want to welcome Carlin Muccular to the God and Gig Show. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. How are you, Alan?
I'm doing awesome. The fact that we made this happen, and I promised that I would do this shout out first. Um, there is a just certain gentleman in both of our worlds named Jonathan Roman. If he is not shouted out, he will remind me forever that he helped make this connection happen. He had me texting you on, I think, IG at like 9 o'clock at night. He's like, call now, text now. We finally got him. You are a busy man. You are an incredibly gifted artist and musician. So I can't wait to dig into some stuff with you.
Man, I'm ready. Thanks, John, for connecting us, man. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, for those of people who have not, unfortunately, heard of you yet, whether it's through Israel or through Shed Tracks, would you just give them the 30-second elevator pitch? Just kind of give them that little synopsis of when people say, "Who is Carlin?" What's your response?
Gotcha. Man, I am Carlin Muccular. My hometown is Richmond, California. Grew up in church. My mom sings, my dad plays guitar, organ, drums, piano, everything. So I got my musical background from both of them. Fast forward, I went to Berklee College of Music when I was 18. Graduated from there, came down to Atlanta, Georgia, started working at a gospel radio station. Left there to start playing at my church full time, which is World Changers Church International. Pastor Creflo Dollar's the pastor, and I've been there for 16 years, believe it or not, man.
Wow.
About half my life. It's pretty crazy, man. But and then I'm still there now, and I'm producing. I'm a record producer. I started a business called Shed Tracks, which basically serves the drum community. I'm sure we'll get into that, making drumless tracks for the drumless community, the drumming community. And man, I'm sure we'll get into a lot of stuff, but yeah, I mean, I just love God, man, and it's my heart to serve people and help people, and I'm just happy to be here, man.
I feel the energy already. There is a childlike, and I don't want to say child as in immature, but childlike as in joy, as in you just feel you enjoy doing what you do, and you're not at this point where you get jaded, or that you've been on these huge stages or got these huge people, sponsorships, endorsements, things like that somehow kind of suck the life out of you in the industry. I did want to ask you, since we're talking about childlike and joy and having enjoy, what is your first musical memory? What's that first thing that kind of sparked you? Because you just mentioned your parents. Obviously, growing up in a musical house. Well, I got to ask, was it a musical household? But what was that first childhood memory that kind of gravitated you to even the thought of doing this professionally?
Yeah. So my first childhood music, like memory musically, maybe just beating on phone books from a drumming standpoint. Just beating on phone books and beating on pots and pans. And my mom loves to shop, so she would take me with her shopping. I don't know if you remember those little sticks that used to be inside of women's high heels and stuff like that. It would like stretch them out. But it was really designed.
That was a weird memory to come up all of a sudden. But you're exactly right. I remember those.
Yeah, they now they put like the tissue stuffing stuff, the cardboard paper stuffing in there, but they used to be those things, and those were my drumsticks. So that's like my earliest memory, being at the shopping mall with my mom, and I would go take all these little sticks out of the women's shoes and just be beating all over the stuff at the mall. But professionally, and I don't know if this is jumping too far ahead, but I think I was 14, maybe 14 years old. My mother-in-law, not my mother-in-law, my auntie, she worked for the Girl Scouts. She had some extra tickets to a Janet Jackson concert, the Velvet Rope tour. Lil John Roberts was on drums, and man, we probably sat in the last seats in the Oakland Coliseum where the Warriors play now. It's called what is it called now?
I
they
think
just moved
they changed it to some corporate name.
exactly. Is it No, it's not Oracle. I think it might be Oracle. But anyway, they're in San Francisco now. But long story short, we sat on the last row, but that concert changed my life, man. It was the first time I saw a real concert outside of church. I grew up in church. I'm a big church boy. So grew up in a small church called Powerhouse Church of God in Christ in Richmond, California. And maybe the church maybe sat about 50 people. I mean, small church, really small church. But going to that Janet Jackson concert, we were in an arena. It was the first time I saw pyrotechnics. It was the first time I even heard drums mic'd. So, you know, if you go to an arena show and you hear doom, 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 poof, 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 you know how like drums sound in the arena if you've been to an arena show. And it just changed my life, man, to see the dancers, the choreography. Lil Jon took a drum solo and it changed my life. And I said, that's what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Because I was also running track and playing football at the same time, but I quit all that stuff and began to focus on music. And man, God just blessed my efforts. Like the next year I won Guitar Center Drum Off. I was like 15 years old and things just took off from there. Like the next year I started gigging with Ledisi, the R&B singer. Yeah, my parents was gracious enough to let me like travel around the country with her at 16 years old and like miss some weekends and stuff like that, some Fridays and stuff. They were still all about education, but you know, I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful for my journey and having a great set of parents, having an amazing wife, having an amazing support system. I have a lot to be grateful for, man. I can go all day, really. I can.
No, I love it. I love the fact that you focused right there on the family. But I have to go back. Speaking of family, the fact that I mean, this is God and Gigs. As you can tell, I very much like to kind of play around that line of where I don't like even the word secular. I think it's kind of like a misnomer for people to kind of say, oh, well, this is not of God when God owns everything. So I
Yeah.
love the fact that you said that your first major inspiration, even though you were a church boy, was from a Janet Jackson concert. Like your parents
Yeah.
clearly did
Yeah.
not have this, nope, he got to stay in church. Nope, he can
Yeah.
only play here for the Lord.
Yeah.
Like clearly
Yeah.
they already gave you that open season of wherever God is leading your talents, they gave you the permission to follow. And then touring with Ledisi, my goodness, like number one, the
Yeah.
talent and
hmm
being what age were you touring at that point?
They let me go. I was about 16 years old. I started gigging with her around the city, but outside of that, I mean, everything I did was pretty much church. But my dad, he's a musician. He listened to everything from George Benson to the Tower of Power. Of course, we're in the Bay Area, so it was the Hawkins singers all day.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
mom actually sang on one of the Hawkins records, and she sang with oh my goodness, oh, the name is Tremaine
Oh,
Hawkins. You know, there's so many Hawkins, but
all the
Tremaine,
Hawkins, one of the Hawkins,
yeah,
one of the millions
exactly,
of amazing, talented Hawkins.
exactly. So I mean, it was church all day, but I'm just so happy, man, that they did allow me to experience different genres of music because it shaped who I am today. And even playing with Israel, I'm sure we'll get there, but he does so many different genres, you know what I mean? So it just shaped who I am, them letting me explore kind of, you know.
Yeah. Now I know that in the midst of that, you got to Berkeley. You did get a
hmm
chance to get your education in terms of music production. I've seen that in your bio. I am
hmm
curious with those influences. We just mentioned church. We've mentioned R&B and this incredible gospel lineage that you were kind of
hmm
exposed to.
hmm
Where did you start to kind of find or hear your own sound? Because obviously playing with artists is different than having your own sound, right? So you're getting all these musical influences, but at the same
Yes.
time, people are hiring you or looking for you to have your own musical identity. So
Yeah.
what was that like? When did you start to develop like this is what I want Carlin to sound like?
Yeah. Man, I'm so grateful. Jeez, as I sometimes I do interviews and I just have these flashbacks, stuff that you forget about, you know what I
Mm,
mean? And it's crazy. It literally almost brings tears to my eyes. But I grew up with some of my friends, my close friends that I grew up with is Thomas Pridgeon. He's a Grammy Award winner. He's played with tons of people, tons of rock artists, and he's a kind of like a drumming legend at this point. Also, a good friend of mine, Justin Brown, who's played with Herbie Hancock and just a ton of people. So I even though I grew up in church, like literally strict Church of God in Christ, you know, dogmatic church, I still loved all different kinds of music because like I said, my dad was into George Benson and like my dad was he's a guitar player still to this day, and he listened to every type of music. So I remember riding to preschool, listening to Bobby McFerrin. You know what I mean? And that's a cappella. Like, that's how musical my family is and my dad is. So one of my favorite songs, probably my earliest favorite song, is "Don't Worry, Be Happy." You know what I mean? By Bobby McFerrin. And I just remember him whistling and woo hoo 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 hoo. You know what I'm saying? And like, excuse my singing. I apologize for that.
No,
Anybody listening.
we
But
didn't know you had pipes. We know you had pipes too. So anytime you need some vocals, we'll call you for that too.
Sure, anytime. But I literally grew up. I played in jazz band in middle school, and in elementary. My second instrument, I should say, my second instrument was clarinet. So I played clarinet in elementary school, and then I got to junior high school, and I played in the symphonic band, which is classical music, and I played in the jazz band. Same thing in high school. I played in symphonic, like classical band, and jazz band, and then I mean, and then going to Berkeley, it's just like, forget about it. You're playing everything at Berkeley. I actually played in a punk rock band too in high school. You know what I mean? So my parents were very, wide open as far as everything. So my sound, back to your question, my sound was shaped from just listening to a bunch of different genres of music. And I play a lot of gospel music right now, but if I'm not on, like, from what you may see on social media, it's all gospel. But if you was to see me at home, a lot of stuff is like, I'm here in my drum studio now. A lot of stuff I play is fusion jazz, and just like everything. I love funk, like I love it all. You know what I mean? So my musical palette, so to speak, has been shaped ever since preschool, listening to Bobby McFerrin.
That's such a great story. And it's a big example, because you just mentioned about getting to these stages where, I mean, if you listen to any record by Israel or anybody, really these influences, I mean, I told you kind of, back behind the scenes, I'm getting ready for rehearsal right now. We're getting ready to work on a song by Elevation and Chandler Moore, and you got Maverick, and you got all these influences coming into the music that are definitely not strictly gospel, definitely not strictly CCM. And I think you're helping some musicians and creatives hear that, hey, you got to have a wide palette. You cannot limit yourself to just this one area to be successful at that next level, because at that next level, they will have these wide variety of things they want you to learn. I did want to ask you about that, because obviously you did spend, or actually are still spending, a huge amount of not time, but a lot of your, I guess you could say, your world is now centered around your time with Israel. So just kind of describe that moment when you get that first call. What is the feeling? What is the moment that, you realize that somebody that is on that stature is calling you to step up to that level?
Yeah, man. Wow. It's a bunch of different angles I can approach this from, but I'll go from the natural level first, as far as like the call. People don't realize, like, on certain levels, like there a lot, like most of the time on higher levels, you don't get to rehearse. It's a lot of, like, there's no, okay, it's just, you get sent the music and you show up to the city, and your first gig is your audition, right? So the first gig with Israel was actually international. It was in Germany. So my first gig with Israel was in an arena in Germany. That was my audition for Israel. So but as far, I'll back up from the call. The way that I started playing for Israel was my good buddy Justin Raines. I'm sure you know who Justin is. Justin's been with Israel for, man, maybe 14, 15 years now too, I think, or something like that. No, actually it's longer than that, because we were in college when Israel first started playing. I mean, when Justin started playing with Israel. But anyway, Justin called me and was like, hey, we're looking for a new drummer, with New Breed. And he's like, would you be interested? Would you be interested in that? And I was like, nah, man, I don't really, I'm kidding. I was completely like, yes.
Like, no,
right.
I'll check with my assistant.
I'll check my schedule and get back to you. Give me about a month and I'll let you know. Right. No, but I was like, of course. And he was like, cool, man, I'm going to hit Israel and let him know. So a week later, John, Israel's manager, he hits me, and he sends me this schedule, and I mean it's Japan, it's China, it's South America, it's Paris, I mean, looks like a world tour. I'm like, I thought this was an audition, but he literally sends me the calendar, and he had me down for all those dates, just based off of Justin's word alone. But to fast forward, we get to Germany, we're in sound check, Israel walks in, and I'm on the drums like, wow, man, like this is crazy, this is really crazy. And we sound check, I talked to Israel, we meet, he's like, man, great to have you, great. Israel's a great guy, man. He's so humble, down to earth, just like, just a regular guy, you know what I mean? And it was just an incredible experience. I'm really grateful, because there's some positions that you can't really put yourself in. You know what I mean? There's it doesn't matter how much you practice. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just the favor of God. You know what I mean? And I'm just grateful for that. And I try to steward this position the best that I can, and make sure that I can still pour and serve others, and do what I'm doing now, and encourage others to just really, really. This is the other angle I said I could approach it from. It's really just about seeking God first. You know what I mean? At the end of everything. Because to be honest, at the time, I was playing at my church, at World Changers Church, which is a mega church. It's a pretty large church, and I was content. You know what I mean? Almost like Paul being content, whether he's with or without. Like, I was just content serving God, and making music, and that just presented itself. Literally, God, the scripture says in Matthew, he's like, if you seek me first, I'll add things to you. You know what I mean? I'll add things to you. And he added that. And to this day, I'm just trying to just steward the position well. It's a legendary chair, man. That's one of the things that blows my mind, to just sit behind all these legendary drummers. And it's just like, how me? Why me? Like, how? Like, you know what I mean? But I'm grateful, man. I really am.
And what I hear, the thread that I always try to, like, without forcing it, I try to hear what the thread is. And you said about 6 times steward and serve. And that is part of your language. Nobody's coached you in that. You clearly, that's part of your DNA. And then, of course, we go to that parable, you go biblically, parable of the talents, right? The one that got 5 was faithful with 5. The one that got 2 was faithful with 2. And the only one that got chastised was the one that didn't do anything with what he had. It had nothing to do with the amount. It had to do with his intention with it. And what I hear what you're saying is, for other musicians, creatives, freelancers, whoever's listening, it's not about, like you said, the chair necessarily, or being like, this incredible best musician ever. Being faithful with what you were at, where you're at, whether it was at World Changers or at Berkeley or with Ledisi, you were faithful with whatever the chair that you were in at the time. And when God elevated you, you were, again, not ready in terms of physically, but you were ready spiritually. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah. I mean, I think they both go together. I think as a professional, I mean, I've the industry is small. You hear about people who get opportunities, and the opportunity doesn't last for whatever reason. A lot of people say sometimes, if you get somewhere where your character can't sustain you, then you won't be there very long. You know what I mean? So it's more to it. Sitting on these tour buses and on these airplanes in first class and stuff, like, it's more to it than just playing. It's a character thing. It's knowing how to handle yourself, and knowing what to say, what not to say. Well, there's some things you will learn too. I had to learn too. Not that I knew everything when I got the position, but sometimes we're overseas and we're in Africa, and royalty literally walks in the room. You have to stand, like, you know what I mean? And like, salute, and pastors, and just knowing, it's more to it than just chops. It's more to it than just a tight pocket. Especially on the spiritual side, you have to know this is not the drum off. You know what I mean? Once you get up there, this is my time to shine, and I'm gonna play every chop I know. Like, everybody look at me, woo woo. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to, like I said, steward the position well, and that's mainly it. Yeah.
No, that's a mouthful. That's a huge part that you just said about the character and knowing how to carry yourself. I think
Hmm.
about, again, it feels like when I'm literally in, at a church environment right now,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, of all the scriptures that pop into about how Paul said, "I will be all things to everyone," right, so that I might win
Yes.
some. So whether you're in the boardroom, whether you're in the courtroom, and on the stage, like how to handle yourself, and that's a huge lesson I think for a lot of people. I do want to
Hmm.
jump into another role that you fill, which
Hmm.
is as a business owner,
Yeah.
entrepreneur, because this is
Hmm.
something that, again, we talked about before we started recording, is near and dear to a lot
Yeah.
of us who are now content creators. We can't just be
Yes.
musicians. We can't just be
Hmm.
artists. We have to be CEOs of our own businesses and brands. And I want to ask you, like, what was the first moment or kind of inspiration for you to jump into entrepreneurship, set tracks? Like, what was even like the start of that idea?
Um, just to touch, I'll jump back to high school, man. I loved economics. I didn't even know what economics was when I got in high school, and I had a class called economics, and I started learning about stocks and how basically how money moves. You know what I mean? And from there, like I remember my dad coming up to the school and talking to my teachers, like, my son is really interested in economics, and I just want to thank you, for being who you are or whatever. And then going to Berkeley, when I got to Berkeley, I got a full scholarship to Berkeley. And so on drums, I got the full scholarship. And once I got there, not once I got there, before I left, I made a decision. I was like, well, if I'm going to get a full scholarship, I'm not going to go to a school and major in performance. I'm not going to go major in drums because obviously I already have a considerable amount of talent for me to get a full scholarship. So I said, I'm going to go learn something completely new. and
Mm.
I and I took advantage of that as much as I could. I actually double majored in music production and engineering and music business management. And I mean, being at Berkeley is incredible, man. You're amongst some of the top teachers and lawyers and businessmen, lawyers for famous people, Michael Jackson, and just all kind of people. So you're literally learning from the best. Same thing with the production and engineering department up there. I learned from the best, people who had Grammy Award winning records that they mixed and engineered and recording. And that began to shape who I am now, because drumming, business, production, that's what Shed Tracks is. It all came together in a thing called Shed Tracks, and it was funny. I was in the bathroom literally one day, literally in the shower, man. And I literally I hear God tell me, you need to start making music for drummers. And I was like, And it was almost like Moses at the burning bush. I swear it was almost audible. It seemed like seriously. And I was like, okay, I think God knows that I'm a type of person. If I don't, I'm not going to quit. Like if something comes to me, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to like, keep pushing. And that's everything in marriage and family and whatever I do, I'm gonna give it my best. You know what I mean? And so I got this idea to do shit, and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, okay, so what should I call it? And I'm like, shed packs. Like what? And I had settled on shed packs. Really, to be honest with you, and I went to GoDaddy and just bought up a bunch of domains, just bought up a ton of domains. I love to shop for domains too. But I thought it was Shed Packs. Then 30 minutes later, I heard Shed Tracks. I was like, Shed Tracks. I told my wife, I said, Shed Tracks. I said, that's it. So I was like, if I go to GoDaddy and this is available, this is going to be it. I go to GoDaddy and the domain is available for $1.99.
What?
Yeah. So I snatched that thing. I was like, I got to buy it right now. Like doors had opened at an arena or something. But anyway, I bought that. And the way that the way it came about was, I mean, for everybody that's listening, Shed Tracks is a platform. It's drumless tracks for drummers. So basically you have music that doesn't have drums on it. And it's like um it's a popular term in the drumming community where it's called drumless tracks or play alongs. Everybody may know the term play along. So my Shed Tracks are basically drumless tracks for drummers. So you can get on the internet and play along to music, and you can fill in the drum chair, so you're almost like a one-man band. And it was so interesting because that I started that right before the pandemic hit.
No way.
And yeah, it was 2020. It released in March of 2020.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. Okay.
yeah,
So
it, it, re- it re-
we got to back up now. Okay. Wait a
okay,
minute.
yeah.
Wait.
I'm
Because now
sorry for jumping ahead so
no,
far.
no, no. You just, like, I did not realize, I'm trying to do my research, but I did not,
Mhm.
I really thought that you had this a little bit earlier and that you were kind of developing it and that it blew
Mhm.
up. What you're telling
Yeah,
me is that God really just dropped this in your spirit right before the musical world shut down.
it
That's what you're
did.
saying.
Yes, I had a small little website in on this website that it's a website called BeatStars. I created this a page on there, and it started on there. I had like 5 tracks on there. I was letting a few people know, but we did not officially launch until March 20th, 2020. And I think the world shut down in February. And man,
I
I
want to say a
launched
week
it.
before. I want to say a week before because we
Okay.
were scheduled. We're talking like just, I'm having
Hmm.
flashbacks. You talk about flashbacks. I just had a
Yeah.
flashback.
Yeah.
So my personal gig was going to be Jazz in the Gardens.
Hmm.
The I want to say March 13th.
That's there in Miami, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
March
Yeah.
13th, we're about to go on and we get the call that the NBA has shut down.
That did it for
And then
everybody.
exactly, and then all the festivals shut down. So my date in my head that the world shut down is this is the 13th. You're saying the
Okay.
20th is when you launch. So a week later, after everything shuts down, you've already bought the domain. You've already had the idea. You already have a website that started. And here's where I want to get to, Carly, because you see me get
Hmm.
excited.
Yes. Yes.
I'm telling everybody that's listening, this is why you start. This is why you start as soon as you can. You don't wait for it to be perfect. And please co-sign if it's true. Get started so that way when things are needed, at least you have the foundation of something that can become something much bigger. Is that, yeah, that's what I hear.
You're absolutely right. And in my mind, we're still getting started. To be honest, I feel like we've been in beta mode for 2 years. But to your point, yes, get started because you learn by making mistakes and making those things better. I mean, if you're in the analytics and data, you launch, you read your data, and then you understand, okay, I see 50% here, but this other side says 25%. So you go on the 50% side to make things simple for those listening. You make your mistakes and then you tweak and then you make some more mistakes and you tweak and or split test if we're talking about marketing, but to back up, yeah, man, it was an incredible situation. I couldn't believe it. We launched in March, and the funny thing is, man, it's so funny. Because I was more so in the production world. I really wasn't heavy in the drum world yet. I play drums, and I had this idea to make music for drummers. Like I wanted, like the play alongs the play alongs market, the drumless tracks market had typically been like jazz music and just like,
Oh, I know
just
you're talking.
simple.
Yeah, yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
To just hear it a little bit, almost like the iPhone kind of thing, where it's like almost like the Casio kind of thing. It wasn't very.
Yes.
It wasn't musical. Let's put it that way. Is
Yeah,
that best? Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And my thing was I wanted to bring this thing to the 21st century. I wanted to make play alongs that sounded like the Grammy Awards and the Super Bowl and just the Oscar. That's just musical, big, intense, a world tour. You know what I mean? Every drummer wants to go on tour. And the closest thing to that until you get on tour is to be able to, play to some music with some big orc hits and distortion guitars and, distorted guitars, excuse me, and just have that world tour experience, that big stage experience. So if you listen to a lot of the tracks on the website, it's giving big energy, like world tour energy, and it's just kind of updating the market. And man, I have some amazing friends just from being in the industry, just my friends that play for Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande and just, I mean, mega superstars, man, all in the gospel world. John P. Key and I, even me playing, with Israel and endorsing my own product. It was just like, and I guess a side step from this is why you should be cool, with everybody and remain humble,
Mm.
because if you remain humble, then people will support you. If you add value to other people, people will support what you're doing. And if you've been, a jerk or whatever, people may see you start something, but they may not support it because the way you treat them. Like if I got the Israel gig and I was like, yeah, I'm Israel drummer or whatever, and I had the big head, nobody would want to support me really because I'm a jerk. You know what I mean? But because these are my friends and people who are treated a certain way before they even got the Justin Bieber gig or they got a certain gig, like they remember that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And adding value is the number one thing to me in business. And you know, adding that value, giving and receiving. I mean, it's almost biblical, you know, you give and you receive, you know, and but yeah, man, it people started supporting and that's a form of, you know, my friends playing to these tracks. That's a form of influencer marketing, which is a big thing nowadays.
Yeah.
Influencer marketing, instead of like running paid ads, it's like paying someone who already has an audience to market your product for you. And so what happened is if you see Justin Bieber's drummer using a product, which shout out to my friend Devin Taylor, who plays for Justin Bieber, just endorsing the product and shooting music videos with it. And just like, if you see a person endorsing their product, now the whole drumming industry was like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he has all the biggest endorsements in the world, from Zildjian to Vic Firth to Remo to, you know, and then even my companies got behind me. The day we launched, Sabian posted it on their website. They posted it on their Instagram page. So, I mean, Sabian's got 600,000 followers. You know what I mean? Remo, Vic Firth's got 1.6 million followers. Like it was God, man. You know, it was God. I actually prayed that this morning. My prayer, you know, my faith prayer is like, God, do something that I can't take credit for. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
it's just, I can't take credit for this. He gave me the idea and I followed through to set things up. I'm grateful for the talents that he gave me. And it's just been an incredible ride, man. A lot of hard work. I can't lie. A lot of hard work.
Now that
Hard work.
I love the fact that you just hit that hard work, because
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, because of all
Yeah.
the success, with every success, there's the outs, there's the iceberg, right? There's a little tip where everybody sees the success, and then underneath, there's all that
Mhm.
hard work and discipline. So I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
what was the biggest struggle, the biggest moment where there was like little disappointment, where not say little,
Mhm.
could be big,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
where was that kind of hidden thing that you got kind of hit by,
Mhm.
and it people don't really know what
Mhm.
goes along with it, but you would warn them and say, hey, before you go looking for all this, be ready for
Mhm.
this, that, because I experienced it. What would that be for you?
Yeah. Let's see. I would say, and maybe this will spark something else, but I would say, um, be ready to learn. Like a lot, it's a lot of learning curves when you start off. There's a lot of things you're not gonna know how to do. And it's a lot of businesses that fail because they get to a certain point that either they have to pay someone to do something or they have to learn how to do it themselves. And maybe they don't have literally the energy because of the wife and the kids and the day job to do it, or maybe they just really don't want to put their head down, open a book, read, and learn how to do something, or watch some YouTube videos and literally just put your head down and work. You know what I mean? And so it's been a lot of so many learning curves, curve after curve, curve after curve. And it takes time, I guess I should say. Patience is huge.
Yeah.
Patience is huge, you know, in business, in life, in career, in family, in marriage, in everything. I think patience, if you don't, the Bible talks about faith and patience. You know what I mean? And my pastor called those the power twins, because you can have faith, but if you don't have the patience because something is going too slow, look at Abraham and Sarah. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
God told them something and it took years for that thing to come to pass. But when it came to pass, it was like, boom. I always talk about the Chinese bamboo tree. I think that it grows underground for like a couple years,
Yeah.
but then once it come out of the ground, it can grow. I can't remember, up to what, 20 feet in a matter of months. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're out of there. So I would say patience. I would say hard work, being prepared to learn. You know what I mean? If God gives you a vision, you know, I think that um I number one, I believe that it's for your good. I
Yeah.
believe that it's a good plan that God has given. I believe we all have a purpose and a plan, and you have to just be willing to push. You know what I mean? To bring that thing to pass.
No, I love
Yeah,
it. It's such great
yeah.
advice, and especially the part about being patient because this
Hmm.
is a microwave society. People get viral overnight. They get these
Hmm.
big ideas on Instagram, and they think, okay, because I got a lot of followers, that means I actually have a foundation. And Instagram goes down, and everything they
Yeah,
have goes down.
yeah, yeah,
And you also mentioned your family, and I really
yeah.
want to get to that because one of the biggest things I think that we get into as musicians, creatives, the hustle mentality. And while we want to hustle, while we want to work hard, we also need to make sure our priorities stay straight. So, how do you keep your
Yes,
priorities with all the stuff that's going on, and still
yeah,
keep your home life and your faith and family, first and foremost?
yeah. It it's hard. It's not easy, but it's a dedicated decision. It is a dedicated decision. I always remember my dad saying, "Love is a choice." You know what I mean? You have to choose to love your spouse or your girlfriend when the going gets tough. Like, you have to. It's a choice to. You're in rehearsals all day, and you're returning emails, and you have to make music, and you have to check these data, check this data, check these analytics, like, and you can be mentally tired and you can be physically tired, but you have to leave some energy when you come home from work to play with the kids, toss them up and down. Like, I even practical stuff. Like, I made my daughter Isadora, she's 5 years old, and Berkeley, she's 3 years old. I literally pick them up like this as some exercise, like sometime. So it's like two things in one for me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
you
getting
get the
some
chip.
exercise.
Exactly. I love it. That's
Yeah,
right. Dad. I see a new business. It's you got Shed Trek now. You got to have like dad. I don't know whatever dad gym, whatever you want to call
Right,
it.
right, exactly. Yeah, so and then the same thing with your spouse. It's finding a TV show that you both enjoy, or going, making sure you go out on a date, twice a month or even once a month, just depending on where you are. It's a dedicated decision, because I believe if you don't, well, I'll say this. My pastor talk when he talks about like the blessed life or prosperity, it's a pie, and there's slices to that pie. You can be rich, but be like not have a you can have a terrible relationship with your family. You know what I mean? And then you're not really. I heard Steve Harvey talking about that not too long ago in an interview. He's like, he had all this money, but he would literally sit in his Phantom. He had a Phantom car. He would sit in his Phantom coming home because he didn't want to go inside and be next to his wife. Yet he's
Wow.
on TV and got all his money, but literally does not want to step out of his $300,000 car to go in the house and spend time with his wife. And unfortunately, they ended up divorced. But it is a decision. You have to literally slice that pie up, and I think that's where the total pie of prosperity, and the word says, the Bible says, I wish above all that you will prosper even as your soul prospers, right?
Right.
And my pastor says your soul is your thinker, your feeler, your chooser, your mind, your will, your emotion, your emotions, and so, all those things. Mental health is a huge thing right now. You know what I mean? Even taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? I literally had to do that recently, is start going to get a massage like once a month, because I wasn't even really taking care of myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, or I should say pampering myself, or I'm always thinking about my family. And like sometimes you also need to, take yourself out to eat or something. It just
Refill
depends,
refill the cup. Refill. You can't. You're
Yeah.
pouring into other people, and yet
Hmm.
I mean, God talks about how we're going to overflow, but you can't overflow if you're not full. And
Exactly.
it's just amazing that you just mentioned that. That I mean, us again as providers, we're talking, as you and I, as fathers, as men, as husbands,
Yes.
to a probably whether whoever's in the home,
Hmm.
you're responsible for so many people and
Hmm.
responsible for businesses, and yet God is like, hey, I got to take care of you. If you don't take care of yourself and let God take care of you, then you can't take care of these other people. And all, like you said with the
Absolutely.
Steve Harvey example, man, that's a sad place. That's like the whole, building
Yeah.
barns and building it up, and
Yeah.
then God comes and say, look, your soul is required of you today. All that you built, like, it's not going to
Yeah.
do you any good when it comes down to the most important relationships. I love that you focused on that. I
Yeah.
want to ask you, what is now that you had these moments, you've had family, you've had success with your business, like what's next? Is there a big goal? Is there something that still excites you? Because I think some people think, oh, you reach the pinnacle, or you get a big, amount of followers, or you play on
Yeah.
this stage, and
Yeah.
that's just it. You reached it. You got
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you hope or pray or think might be, on the horizon for you
Yeah.
in the future for future goals?
Yeah. I really love this question. And it's funny, man. Like I can feel my future right now. It's like it almost brings tears to my eyes. But um I've been talking to my wife lately, and I told her, talking to my wife lately, and I told her, I think honestly, I have experienced everything I could ever want to experience playing drums. My dad asked me when I was in high school, he said, if you could play for anybody, who would you want to play for? Can you guess who I said? I said Israel Houghton. And so for that to happen is just, first of all, mind boggling for me, because there's not many musicians who literally say who their dream gig is and they actually get to experience it. Somebody may say, well, Michael Jackson was my dream gig, or Rascal Flatts was my dream gig, or or Maverick City is my dream, or whatever. But to actually get to play for that artist is pretty crazy. So when that happened, um just fast forward to where I am now, where how I feel in my heart. I don't have a desire to go on a world tour with Beyonce or Justin Bieber or anybody like that. I mean, just playing. I've been fortunate enough to tour with Israel, and I've seen the world, right? And
Yeah.
so now, fast forward, where God is leading me now, He's literally just leading me to sow and serve, and via the internet. You know what I mean? YouTube lessons. I'm headed towards giving drum lessons, and I'm headed towards basically pouring myself out now, like I'm doing
Mm.
now. Everything, it's just so crazy. There's a lot of stuff that I even left out of this interview. My publishing deal with Sony ATV, which is like the biggest music publishing company in the
Wow.
world. Like, just there's a lot of stuff that I left out, but I went down that route and I turned around because it was more so mainstream music. And I'm sorry for this side note, but
No,
maybe this should be in
please.
here.
No,
Yeah.
please.
I just didn't know how much time we had, but I signed a publishing deal in 2009 with Sony ATV, and I end up walking away from it because I was with the production team, and I signed the deal because I had been working with the production team for about 4 or 5 years. And we get to this point, and in my heart, I knew it wasn't for me, but they weren't exactly just headed in the same direction that I was, I guess, spiritually. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things for me is that I couldn't make mainstream music, pop, R&B, and disregard the lyrics. Some people can do
Mm.
that, and it's just business to them. They can sell the music and not care about the lyrics that's over the music. That wasn't me. I couldn't do it. And nowadays, the best records are made when you're in the room with the songwriter and the artist, and when they've got a goal, and the goal is, all right, this record has to be provocative. You know what I mean? Like, we got to make this record like super sexy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm in the room and I'm trying to pull the record back to, like, to a safe space. Let's make a PG
PG
record.
13.
Yeah, I'm like, nah, like, no. Well, we make a record for Ariana Grande. Well, Ariana Grande ain't so young no more. She's 27 now. She's not the. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, long story short, I had to walk away from that publishing deal. One of the most difficult times in my life, because you got lawyers involved, you got the production team involved, you got managers involved, and it was just probably the most difficult time of my life. And so dang, I'm on the sidebar now. That was
No,
a sidebar
no,
from
this is
what?
not a sidebar. This is probably
Okay.
what I again, not to say that everything you said is gold, but I think sometimes we stumble onto the thing that
Mhm.
realize that that needed to hear. I really believe
Yes.
that whoever
Yeah.
hears this, there is
Yeah.
something that God brought back to your memories. Like, wait a minute, this is
Yeah.
a place where you had to make a decision. And remember, the
Yeah.
whole theme of my show and this platform is how do you work with that? How do you work with the Holy Spirit who has you in
Yes.
the mainstream media, arts, and entertainment space where we're
Yeah.
literally in the world, but not of it? And
Yes.
making a decision like that is right where some people just don't know where to turn. And you made a
Yeah.
decision based on
Yeah.
what God put on your heart. Now, again, this is not shade. I'm sure what you're saying
Hmm.
is you're not
Yeah.
throwing shade at anybody else who stays in that arena.
Yeah.
One of the places that I'll go quickly. This is gonna
Mm.
we're gonna go all the way down the sidebar. We might as well
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
it a main road.
Okay. Okay.
There's a little slice in my book where um, I talk about the oh gosh, now I forgot his name, but the leper who went to Elijah or Elisha and Naaman. So Naaman gets cleansed, right? But
Hmm.
Naaman is a member of the tribe of Babylon. He's a member of an enemy tribe. He's worshiping a foreign god. He works for the court of a foreign god. And then he goes to Elisha. He says, "Look, I got to go back here after you heal me. But please just remember when I lean on my staff in this foreign court, that I am still giving you and your God reverence." So it's like we are in the middle of these foreign courts where there's some bad stuff happening. You were
Dude,
in the
you are
middle.
on it, man. You're on it, because I was going to bring up something else exactly right there with you, and I can't. Can you hear me fine right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. I'm getting text messages. I apologize. And I didn't know if it was affecting the volume, but you are right on it, because I was gonna say, geez, I forget what was it. I think it was. No, it wasn't Daniel, but maybe the three Hebrew boys, when they
Yeah.
were in exile and they were
Hmm.
in Babylon, God told them, get comfortable and serve this country. God had a plan, you know what I mean? But he told them, get comfortable, because God had a plan, right? So for me, to back up, it's about, I feel like it's about the Holy Spirit, because obviously we're kingdom and God needs his people everywhere, right?
Right.
Jesus went to Samaria, he went, all over the place, and we had to go there to reach the lost, right? We need to be there when somebody is about to overdose on drugs or they're about to commit suicide. But I believe it's specific, wherever the Holy Spirit gives you peace to be, then you dwell there. You know what I mean? And I think that is the key. It's just the Holy Spirit, because we need tough guy. We need Mr. T. You know what I'm saying? Mr.
Yeah.
T's we need those guys. We need the motorcycle guys. We need the guys who can relate to everybody. We need to go reach the motorcycle gangs. We need to go reach the gangs, period.
Yeah.
We need to be in the jails. We need to be everywhere. We need to be, so some of us, it's our assignment to be on the stage with some of these mainstream artists, because they need to hear the gospel, right? But it wasn't God's plan for me. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to know. You have to know what you have to spend time with him and get quiet enough, get away from the noise, get away from the industry, get away from the lights, get away from the charts, get away from the chops, get away from the followers, get away from all of this stuff, get away from the algorithms, get away from the analytics. I'm talking marketing here too, but I'm just saying, sometimes you got to hear God, because God may have specific instructions for you. He may tell you to do something different, which for me was, I didn't know all of this stuff was going to lead me to Shed Tracks. You know what I mean? God has
Right.
specific instructions. He'll tell you to do stuff, and it may sound strange. Like, why in the world are you telling me to walk away from this publishing deal or whatever? This is what everybody does. They take a publishing deal. If you're a songwriter, you're a producer. But little did I know that God was going to have me literally build what I've called Shed Tracks an ark. Literally, like, sometimes, like, God
Mm.
told Noah to build an ark. It had never rained before.
Dude,
What in the world? Like, it had never rained before, but he had to have faith to do this thing that God was telling him to do. For me, I'm like, okay, I feel this tension. I got to walk away from this publishing deal, because you're leading me somewhere else. I didn't know at the time that he was going to give me the idea for Shed Tracks. Shed Tracks is, I'm not the first guy to make play-alongs or drumless tracks, but I had the vision to commercialize it and make it like an Amazon space where other producers can come on and put their music on there and sell it as well.
right.
So, but if you listen, long story short, God will have something better for you if you just listen. Sometimes we've seen these little memes where somebody's holding on to a teddy
The
bear and
teddy bear.
Jesus has
Yeah.
this huge teddy bear behind his back, right? And sometimes I feel like, to make this practical, I think Paul wrote a scripture. He said, it might be New Living Translation or something like that, but it says make peace your umpire. So whenever you have peace with something, I feel like that is the direction you should continue in or stay there, because that's where you should be. If you don't have peace, then you need to be questioning that, get quiet, and figure out why you don't have peace. And it may look shiny, it may look like the yellow brick road, but we all know what those stories look like, you know what I mean, in the Bible or whatever. But I just followed peace, and I trusted God. And I know when you actually mentioned in the notes when you were just giving me a briefing on what some things we may talk about, you were talking about major, what was it? But that was a major turning point in my life. Some things that I had to learn along the way on this road to success is follow peace. Follow peace. And where peace is, that's usually God. Sometimes we I got to hear God. Is God going to speak audibly, or is he going to do this? Sometimes it's just the peace. It's the peace. You know what I mean? And so even though I walked away from this and I had lawyers calling my phone, and I had peace, like I could sleep at night again. I literally was not sleeping. You know what I mean? Because it was just a crazy situation. So, but yeah, man, it's been an incredible ride. So that the music production, the business stuff at Berkeley, all that has culminated into shed tracks and just mistakes. Like I have another saying now, like the more mistakes, well, this is more of a business thing. This is more of a marketing thing.
Share.
As far as, I hate to jump from spiritual back to marketing.
It's the same. No, look, we do not. God is the God of and, not or. We don't do that here, sir. Like, no.
Okay.
If God gives you a business idea, that's as spiritual as you can get. So
yeah. It's funny sometimes. Like this is a practical thing. I was just gonna say that when it comes to marketing stuff, the more mistakes you make, the less you are afraid to make a mistake. But that's practical stuff. That's really a sidebar from what I was saying. But just more so, I'm sorry to be all over the place, but just having peace and listening to God, man, and just I feel that he'll lead you, he'll add things to you if you have faith. He said he's the God that teaches us how to profit. Just to recap on some things that we've said, like, keep moving forward. You have to have faith, you know what I mean? And you got to keep moving forward no matter what, and just move when God tell you to move, and get out of the situations you feel God leading you to get out of. And yeah, man.
I love it, man. Now, normally I do end these interviews by saying, what would you say to someone who was in a position that you were in? You literally just did that. Like, you literally just gave the blueprint to when you find yourself in a situation like you, because somebody is going to face this. Somebody that's listening is going to face that kind of like Red Sea moment. Like, do I go back or do I go forward? Do I turn around? Do I stick with this producer? Do I stick with this assignment? Is God really speaking? So you really just answered that question so well. I don't even want to make you go back, because someone can rewind right now. They can go back and listen to it and follow what you said about following peace. You dropped some gems. Let me quickly ask you, if people do want to stay connected with you, with the next thing that you're going to do, whether it's your production, whether it's your music, whether it's shed tracks, like, how do they stay in touch with you so that they can hear more of this wisdom? Because clearly we can't get to all of it. You have so much more to share, and we got to bring it into the close. But tell them how they can stay in touch with you.
Sure. Yeah. My I am my business is Shed Tracks, so it's at Shed Tracks _on Instagram. The website is literally shedtracks.com. That's SHEDTRACKS. Shedtracks.com. And I my personal Instagram, which I'm very active in my stories, I'm always showing my family and stuff like that. It's at Carlin Muccular. So CarlinMuccular. And that's where you can reach me. Feel free to DM me if you're listening to this. I'm pretty active in my DMs, but if you will allow me, the last thing I want to say, the question you asked me, you said, where was I headed? Like, what? Then that's how I got on the side road. I'm glad, like, you said that. But where I'm headed now is, like I said, just serving others. Everything that I've gone through, everything that I've been able to experience, from winning the drum off to touring at a young age, to how to get a full scholarship to Berkeley, to how to manage being at Berkeley in a double major, and like how to tour, how to like your etiquette, like your character, like just everything from being a mix engineer, being a producer, being a husband. Like God is now moving me into a position where he just wants me to serve others. I don't have a, like I said, I don't have a desire to tour anymore like that. I still play with Israel, of course, in the church I play at, it gives me almost an arena experience because of how big it is, so it's like I don't have a desire to do anything now but pour into others and give my experience away, and just serve other people. And I'm asking God to, I'm not even asking him, I'm starting to feel I'm really just starting to feel that calling, come and sit upon my life. And I'm really excited about that. I love to see people's light bulbs go on, and I know God's given me a lot of wisdom and let me go to Berkeley and everything. Now that I've experienced just this amazing career, I understand now that it is not for me. And the finishing act is going to be give it all away. Gosh, that's mind blowing. Jesus Christ, man. Gosh.
I really feel like an offering should have come for it right there. If I had an organ, I would have started. I promise you, because that was an altar call. But more importantly, again, we keep saying it. And I know we could go on. We got to finish. It just, to me, it really is the whole and not or thing. That he will give you, grace and mercy. That that is not this dividing line between the spiritual and the business. And we really are talking about a holistic, integrated life, that all things that you're doing is for the glory of God. And it's not just where you do just the gigs or just the drumming or even just worship, right? Because worship can become its own little God if we're not careful in that industry. So we can talk about this. Just promise me, because you said you want to give more away, that you will come back to God and gigs.
Oh, absolutely.
And give some more away, because you have so much more we can share. And I really want to just bless you. Thank you so much, and your entire family and your business. We want to bless you for giving away what you have, and really just knowing that God's going to follow you and do even more in your life. Thank you for sharing this on the God and Gig Show. We can't wait to hear more.
My pleasure, man. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices, everything is going to help you become a totally confident creative. And don't miss an episode of the God and Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now, because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creative. And continue to stay connected with us, because we're here to help you become the creative that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.